Today's deck list has Tangle in it, so, you know, please clap. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and I want to revisit Simulacrum Synthesizer. This was a card that I think I 5-0'd with a week or so ago and had some initially very good results, but at the end I was kind of like, WTF do I do with this? And I was very unsure about the card, and let's just take a look at the deck list that I've been given. So this deck list comes to us from Michael, and obviously it is built around Simulacrum Synthesizer. And on the Eternal Glory podcast, when we evaluated this card, we said that the floor of this card is just 3 mana, scry 2. And that's it, that's still true. So when this card is bad, it is incredibly bad. But when this card is good, conversely, it will also just be insane. And you have the potential to do some things like play a Thought Monitor into a Thought Monitor and just continue to pump out construct tokens every turn. And a comparison that was made on the subreddit, I think it was Matt Chow who posted and was like, hey, I was watching the ThrabenU video and Simulacrum Synthesizer is basically up the beanstalk. And I don't remember if I said that or not, but I think the comparison is very good, because this gives you some immediate, loosest of air quotes possible advantage in that you do get to immediately scry 2, which is unquestionably weaker than a draw a card effect, but then over time, every time you cast a certain type of card, you are going to get an effect. And making an Urza Saga construct token is, on average, I think, going to be much more powerful than just drawing a card, especially when your deck has as many artifacts as this one does. The downside of playing around a card like this is that some amount of the cards in your deck need to look like this so that you can potentially just keep vomiting stuff into play. This deck list is a little different from the one that I played before, and I apologize for accidentally borrowing this card. Normally I would just return it and place another order, but I am so incredibly pressed for time today because I am leaving town that you got to deal with it, and I apologize. But anyway, we're going to be looking to play the One Ring today as an alternative source of card advantage, and when we plop that into play and we start vomiting free Frogmites and Sojourner's Companions, we can make a lot of construct tokens or very quickly grow a Patchwork Automaton. Compared to my previous deck list, I think this one is closer to colorless, and so it is going to try to get away with playing a couple of artifact lands to further make these construct tokens larger. That's going to make you worse against the Meltdowns, Null Rods, Serenities of the world, but give you a little bit more oomph out of the gates initially as a trade-off. We are not on Game 1 Chalice of the Voids. That's something that's in the sideboard here. And otherwise, we just have some generically good cards that we can write love letters to. But Tanglewire is maybe the most interesting thing here. Tanglewire is a way for us to aggro down our opponents after we've made some Urza Saga construct tokens, and given how many permanents are in this deck, we can probably take better advantage of this Tanglewire than our opponents can in the vast majority of cases. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the league here, folks. Should you need some copies of Simulacrum Synthesizer or any other new cards from Outlaws of Thunder Junction or Modern Horizons 3, check out TOAmagic.com and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% while you're doing it. They're great. They're Eternal Gamers there. They've got power, they've got dual lands, and they've also got 95% of stuff from Standard in stock. So if you need everything from one retailer, they're a great place to shop. With that being said, let's battle. So my hand here is a keep. I think you can make arguments a couple different ways for how this hand is supposed to be played out. I am just going to play this in a relatively aggressive way and just start on Patchwork Automaton into Lotus Petal and call that a turn. You can make an argument that I should not play the Lotus Petal for one turn in case I draw a second Patchwork Automaton, but I think I always need this blue mana in play given the rest of the hand. And since Urza Saga is so good, I maybe just want to put an extra artifact into play so that if like Grief Reanimate happens, I don't lose both of this and I'm just left with an uncastable Thought Monitor. Are we moonin over there? Moon seems likely, which makes Urza Saga sort of innately worse. It is a Fable of the Mirrorbreaker. That's fine. Assuming that I cast one artifact, I get to attack through that. There's the Patchwork Automaton that I was talking about. I don't think I'm playing this one, though. I think I'm interested in bam, take 2, play this. This grows to a 3/3. I get to scry 2. I think I'm just going to bottom both of those. They're kind of whatever. I think I attack, but it's pretty close. Opponent's on 15. And we'll see what they do with this looting. They are junking mana sources, which makes sense. Ooh. We were really hoping that they were not a goblins build. Hopefully that low roll means that I'm not just going to eat the worst case scenarios here. Oh, that's still pretty bad. This 3, 6, 9, 10 damage this turn. Not great for me. I probably just get overrun here. So what am I looking to draw? Like some sort of Frogmite type card? Hey, it's a Frogmite type card. So this is a little awkward, right? So I do this. I now control 3 artifacts. I do this. I now control 4 artifacts. I do this. I scale up both copies of Patchwork Automaton. And now I also get a token. So I have 5 blockers here. I think I have to hold back the extra body, unfortunately. I'm not sure that I can attack. I think I just have to live through the turn, and I can probably end up presenting lethal the following turn. I think it's just too easy for me to accidentally die to a couple of Battlecry Goblin pumps. Ooh, am I dead on board to Reflection of Kiki Jiki activate, and then... Oh, well, that probably kills me too. So now Battlecry Goblin can activate, giving this haste, targeting a Namesticker Goblin, making more mana, and then pump that mana into Battlecry Goblin. I might still just die anyway before I can get a Shadow Spear. Oh, fuck. That probably does it too. Yeah, that's not great. This is a math is for blockers situation, where it doesn't matter because my opponent can just broadside any creature at my face to kill me before the combat damage step even gets involved, which they do. So we end up just short there. Cards that I can consider, Chill, Dismember are probably actively good. Haywire Might, Spellbomb, and Metallic Rebuke fall into a secondary level of playability that I'm not like super excited about. Let's figure out what my worst cards are. Against a bunch of Goblin tokens, the Tangle Wire plan is like maybe not going to do what I want it to do. I think that gets me the Chills and the Dismembers as a starting point. Palantir feels slow. I think that's going to go for a couple of these cards. I think I'm going to do Metallic Rebukes when I'm on the play, and then maybe one or both of these when I'm on the draw instead. There's also potentially Grafdigger's Cage, but a bunch of these Goblin decks aren't actually on Muxus anymore. Like, there's a build running around that is on, like, copies of the One Ring instead, so Grafdigger's Cage may be significantly less good than it otherwise might be, depending on which build my opponent is messing around with. Alright, so this is turn 1, Patchwork, turn 2, Synthesizer, into turn 3, the One Ring. Is that powerful enough? Maybe. Got this Metallic Rebuke that's hard to use. It's got this Thought Monitor that's hard to use. I guess what does a better hand look like? That might be about as good as I can realistically expect. It just feels like my opponent's deck is going to be faster than mine on their average to slightly above average draws. We are not a Force of Will build. I think I'm mostly hoping that the One Ring saves my butt here. As an aside, I kind of hinted at it in the intro, but I hate Magic cards that are not actively readable. think it is a major problem. That is a Blood Moon. Okay, opponent's going now. That is the high roll. Okay, that's a good Magic the Gathering card, but that's not killing me immediately. That's a fine Magic card. Is there a Spirit Guide? Oh, there's a Chalice beyond that. That's pretty damn good. I am unfortunately on the defensive here. Guess I'll play this for Metalcraft count. I have my 4th land drop for next turn, sort of in good news, so I can do the 1 ring. This is too slow here. I think I'm just going to get overrun by goblins. What's my opponent looking for? They can already double activate Battlecry Goblin, so they're probably looking to get rid of mana at this point. Something like a Broadside would be probably the Nightmare card. That's real damn good too. That's 2 Battlecry activations. Oh. It's 3 Battlecry Goblin activations. So these creatures are now massive. I basically have to trade Patchwork Automaton with 1 immediately. Oh, and then I just take 16 through that, right? 5, 10, 16, even after I block 5. I'm just dead. It is turn 2, and I am dead via combat damage. My deck simply is not fast enough to keep up with this. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and honestly, they're just the best at what they do. If you need to keep your deck lists online, this is the way to do it. They have all sorts of different viewing options. You can condense that text if you like things to be tight. You can make them visual grids. You can put them in stacks. You've got all sorts of different ways to kind of view and visualize your deck lists, and they also have some really cool functionality, like allowing you to see playtest hands and even fully playtest your decks. So check them out. Okay. This hand feels very awkward. I don't think it does anything despite having a reasonable mix of lands and spells. I don't really want to patchwork on turn 1 with no follow-up play afterwards. The City of Traders is kind of awkward, especially with another disappearing land. Metallic Rebuke isn't on early. I don't think this hand has a plan to win. I'm going to mulligan this accordingly. Seat. Mox Opal. Control 2 artifacts. Seat of the Synod is the 3rd mana for Frogbite. I'm on the play. This hand does not do anything. I cannot cast any spells with this. This is suffering. I am on 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No? Ancient Tomb Urza Saga is just better than this hand, unfortunately. We're on 4. Thank you. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a pretty good hand. You could also go in on this, but with no other gas to do with it immediately. I'm not sure that that's better than just dude. All right. We're on 4. We've got something that I would say is like powerful by legacy standards going on here, but we are all in. A wasteland pretty much just wins my opponent the game on the spot. Got Marsh Flats. That's a scary land. Looting? Well, in good news, since we mulliganed to 4, we don't have another thing in our hand. In bad news, it kind of looks like my opponent is playing a black-red Reanimator deck. Ooh, no. Or yes. My opponent seems to be in questionable Rakdos cards territory. I have been there myself. I think I'm going to go ahead and play this Palantir. It could get a little weird if Bowmasters gets involved. It could also get a little weird and I maybe miss 2 points of damage if this gets countered. But I would like to try to force the 3rd. I think I just need every single bit of damage that I can possibly get, given how poorly this game started. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is my opponent going to do damage? Because if my opponent's going to do damage, I would love for them to just eat 7 here. But if my opponent gives me the card, I literally don't want any of these cards in my hand right now. That one goes to the bottom for sure. I think I am willing to gamble here and put that one on top. Oh! Sex is great, but have you ever just domed your opponent for 7 with a Palantir? Delicious. Double black. Douthie Voidwalker is fine. Wasteland is legitimately scary. Part of me wonders if it was better to go after the Ancient Tomb there. I am legitimately not sure. It's like ability to cast things that I top deck versus a tutor a couple turns down the line. That's not the best here. I will bash in for my 3. Don't have a lot of say in that. My opponent's at 6. And now we try to do some gross things with Palantir. Lotus Petal's a no. How do I feel about drawing Lavaspur Boots? I would rather just draw another threat, honestly. Lavaspur Boots is kind of +2 damage, if you look at it funny. I think I'm just going to bottom that. Get an Otawara. Sure. That's my safety net. That's fine. Do these go to graveyard afterwards? That's an interesting interaction. So like if my opponent makes me mill stuff under Douthie, like sorry, if my opponent makes me mill, those cards just end up under Douthie. It's very awkward that I have Ancient Tomb here. So Ancient Tomb saves me 1 point of life at the cost of Lotus Petal, which could cast blue cards, and at the cost of 1 artifact. I think I'm just going to take the Douthie out of play, though. Like, it saves me 1 point of life this turn, and then 3 points of life next turn. I think that's fine. This puts me in a better place regarding the clock, especially if my opponent does not have a land. Ancient Tomb. Why, though? 3 points of damage. So now this is going to become, does my opponent have a blocker for this card? Bottom both. These cards don't do a lot right now. Shadow Spear is gas. The Trample might be very relevant against something like a Bowmaster. Okay, I'm very glad that my opponent just conceded there rather than making me play out my next turn, because the next turn is very, like, scary because of Lightning Bolt and Bowmasters and things that can happen at instant speed. So I'm happy to have won that one. So my opponent is on Rakdos cards. My opponent probably doesn't make enough permanents most of the time that, like, Tangle Wire is bad. Pithing Needle can go on Wasteland. Not sure that I'm in love with Metallic Rebuke. It feels slow. It feels like I need to just not die in the early game. That probably means playing Dismembers and maybe adding a Spell Bomb to my deck. I'm going to go down a Thought Monitor. I think that's going to be kind of hard to cast. Chalice of the Void might actually be good against my opponent's deck. Like Thoughtseize, Reanimate, Lightning Bolt, DRC. It's a little worse on the draw. But like, it feels pretty hard to get Thought Monitors and Sojourner's Companions into play versus this deck unless things are already going my way. I think I'm going to do this and Chalice my opponent. You can also consider this, I think. So this is sort of an interesting one. I go turn 1, Seat, Shadow Spear, Mox Opal, all that stuff's on, and then I can play the One Ring on turn 2, but the hand fully falls apart to a single piece of, like, discard-based disruption in a way that I'm not really a fan of. I think I'm going to mulligan accordingly. I think the hand is not safe. So this is the hand without 1 copy. Like, I would put back the second Tangle Wire. Like, land pass into Urza Saga, probably play Chalice, and potentially already taking a bunch of aggressive damage. I don't think I like this. These Tangle Wires fucking suck. This is the best hand that I have seen. In some order, Ancient Tomb, Patchwork, Chalice. Just feels bad. You're always going, you're always going. Is it ever Palantir over Patchwork? Let's say yes, given how few resources I have. Makes me noticeably worse versus a Bowmasters if I keep this. Oh, come on, deck. How many Ottawaras are in this deck? Is it 2? Fuck you, deck. Ugh. Alright. Chalice on 1. Entomb in response. Oh, okay, cool. I imagine we're going to see an end of turn Surveil land, which we do. Oh, my opponent pitched a Bowmasters, which I had just identified as one of the best cards against my hand. So opponent could be looking for a second land. They already could have a Bowmaster. They could just think Bowmaster isn't going to be good after I mulligan this much. They pitched another Bowmaster. This is kind of comic to me. Folks, what are we doing? What are we doing keeping hands that look like that? The London Mulligan is so effing good. Please, please use it. I think I'm gonna hold the Lotus Petal. It's a little weird because like playing the Lotus Petal lets me activate an Otawara, but I have Patchwork Automaton, which would be a pretty good draw right now, and I would love to make that better. So we drew Tangle Wire instead of a real card. Okay, I'm not entirely sure that just playing this is better than not playing it. Because like this is going to set me back on mana a little bit. But it keeps my opponent from top decking a land and then playing a 2-drop like Dauthi Voidwalker, so I guess that's good. Okay, so we want to stack this so that this one goes on the bottom and the fading counter is removed first. Then I tap 3 things instead of tapping 4 things. Okay. Hopefully we just take over the game from here. 1, 2, 3, 4... Sojourner's Companion is castable. So its cost is reduced by 3. Or sorry, by 4, meaning that it costs 3, which is this, so I will just put that on top. Opponent is casting something for 1 mana? Oh, I see, it is a cycle. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. My Tangle Wire did not accomplish anything this turn. My opponent can now make their land drop, but the Chalice is keeping them from actively doing a follow-up play here. Okay, you can cast free cards, that's fine. You may see my lizard. My salamander? Is it a salamander or a lizard? What is the creature type? I think salamander. The same thing, we will fading first to only tap down 2 cards. Cast this as a creature and make a 6/6. So now we're going to attempt to tap down these lands one more time and then hopefully just shove 10 damage 2 turns in a row. Okay, opponent is just moving straight to discard. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. We'll see if they put something like an Atraxa in the graveyard that could be scary. A Price of Progress. Absolutely. Tap our Tangle Wire. That adds 1 point of damage to the board and makes it a little easier to cycle Otawara. There's 11. This will tap down my opponent's swamp. And then any blocker that my opponent puts in play, I will just Otawara out of the way. Hello. Hello, Meltdown. I did not win that game. My opponent lost that game. They kept a, I believe, 7-card hand that made no turn 1 play, could not interact with a Chalice of the Void, and made no play at all by turn 7 of the game that was relevant. And I think I mulligan to 4 or something like that. So like, folks, mulligan. Mulliganing is so good. Okay, this is a pretty powerful hand. It's just turn 1 Urza Saga, Pithing Needle Wasteland, turn 2 Ancient Tomb, Urza Saga, my opponent into Oblivion, and hope that we don't die to combo. Blood Moon, I guess, can also be bad. Opponent is probably not a Blood Moon deck in game 1 if we are playing against Painter. And 1 ring is interesting here. I don't think I deviate from the plan, though. But we're changing what we're naming with Pithing Needle now. So now we just go ahead and Pithing Needle Grindstone to not just accidentally lose to the combo. And then hopefully I drown my opponent in Urza Saga tokens. Red-White Painter specifically. Although we should keep in mind that there might still be black in this deck for Chaos Defiler, as that is just such a strong generic answer to cards. Opponent's still moving towards Painter combo, which is scary. That probably means there's a red Elemental Blast in hand over there. I think we're going to still just make have it. Like, they are going to need 3 mana to activate a Grindstone. So the way that I lose is 3rd land drop into Bring Back Painter and Pyroblast. I can in theory die this turn. 3 mana to activate, 1 mana to return, plus Spirit Guide Pyroblast. Or no, that doesn't work, right? Because they can't activate the Grindstone while this is in play. I'm probably good this turn. And then starting next turn, things get scarier. So pressure is on. I don't think I have game 1 Graveyard Hate, if memory serves. I believe that's in my sideboard. Although my opponent should activate Engineer here if they are going to activate Engineer. I don't have Graveyard Hate, so we will get the boots. Play new Urza Saga, and these boots just represent so much damage here. I'll equip that here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this still costs mana, right? This costs 2, so I can't do that. I will casually attack for 11 and hope that I don't die. I will be attacking with at least 3 Urza Saga tokens next turn. Probably a Sojourner's, or I guess 3 Urza Saga tokens, and I'll also make a Sojourner's Companion. All right, Painter's in play. Everything is quite blue. Looting here is quite potent because it can potentially set up some neat Goblin Engineer lines. My opponent junks a Fury and puts another Grindstone, or no, sorry, just junks a Fury. Grindstone was already in graveyard from the sacrifice. Ooh, that is a Pyroblast on my Pithing Needle. That does not bode well for me. Welder's scary. So my opponent now has 3 mana and 3 blockers, so I am not getting through for damage, at least not enough to kill my opponent. I can get protection from everything to make it to my next upkeep for sure. What happens if I make an Urza Saga token? My opponent does not have red mana right now. Can I put enough stuff in play to make 3 8/8s to force blocks? 5 is easy, 6 is easy, and then it gets harder. Oh, a Simulacrum Synthesizer. I can play that. So play Simulacrum Synthesizer. I still have 4 artifacts. Play City of Traders, Tangle Wire. I have 5 artifacts. This still costs mana. It does not seem like I can kill this turn. If I can't kill this turn, I think I am dead. Let's, I guess, at least make it tough for my opponent. So I will make a token. I think I could have optimized this slightly better now that I'm thinking about it. I forgot about moving the boots to the new creature because I'm wasting a mana. Could have potentially done something where I like cycle this. Oh, my opponent's got more interaction beyond this. Rough. Okay. So now my opponent is not forced into enough blocks for this to be lethal. So I attack with both. My opponent chump blocks 1 and then just does Painter Welder shenanigans. All right, they are at 4. So now they just need any artifact, and they have an artifact from this. So this is going to be the attack for 2, and this is effectively going to kill me. Yeah. I probably win this one if I have some main deck Graveyard Hate. Oh, I guess I should not have shown my opponent my deck. It's whatever. They can look. We are dead. So in terms of interaction, Grafdigger's Cage is probably fine. This is specifically creature cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield, so it doesn't necessarily stop everything that a welder is capable of doing. It's sort of weird that I don't have one hard, like, Tormod's Crypt type effect. I don't mind that. I don't mind this. This is kind of whatever. This is probably okay. This is probably okay. I hate how slow my deck is. Like, all of this stuff does not have immediate impacts on the game early. Metallic Rebuke is a little hard to hold up when I'm going to play this tap-out deck, and I have to respect all the fair stuff that my opponent is capable of, in addition to the unfair stuff. I think against the Red Blast, I'm just going to get rid of the very slow Thought Monitors. Those will become Chills and Dismembers. How is Tangle Wire? My opponent also just generates so many permanents. Like maybe these go. I do these 3. I play 1 Fairy, 1 Thought Monitor, 1 more Metallic Rebuke or something like that. Do 1 Fairy. Turn 1 Saga, Shadow Spear. Turn 2 activate. Turn 3 activate. Double attack. It's fine. I don't know that it's worth mulliganing, but like this card is dead. This card is dead. I'm very much feeling the deck building costs associated with this build. Also, I have to keep in mind that my opponent could just Blood Moon me, Magus of the Moon me, in post-sideboard games, which makes this slightly more awkward. I think this is powerful enough to not mulligan, but I am very aware that a commonly played card could just beat me here. Simulacrum Synthesizer also just eating it to a single red elemental blast effect is not the best. That is incredibly awkward. That is such a terrible draw. We'll make it work, but I am unhappy about drawing that because now I can't tutor it directly into play. I guess we'll like put a Pithing Needle into play and not be upset about that, but this disrupts the plan of just hit my opponent in the face twice. Sure. I guess I can also think about Grafdigger's Cage if a creature goes to the bin specifically. No, a creature does not go to the bin, and my Grafdigger's Cage does not stop this. So the decision to run Fairy Macabre over a Tormod's Crypt type card is a really big deal here. At least I have Otawara in hand to deal with a bridge. Alright. Yeah. I could also just get Haywire Might, but I can't make mana for it. I guess I could just Pithing Needle the Goblin Engineer. Let's do that. Let's just cut it off in that capacity. And here we see, like, not being able to immediately equip these and swing with both tokens is a big deal. I only have 5 artifacts. Sojourner's Companion is not free yet. My opponent's under a decent amount of pressure, and, like, these things are just going to get stronger. We'll see what my opponent tutors up. Lavaspur Boots into Goblin Welder and an artifact land would be some shit. That would make me upset. It's just mana. That's a decent amount of mana now. It is a Karn. Sure. That's awkward for me. How bad is it? It is Ensnaring Bridge levels of bad. Somewhat comically, Sojourner's Companion cannot cycle me for a usable artifact land right now. I can play Patchwork, attack with 2 6/6s, put my opponent theoretically to 1, but they would probably just block with the Goblin Engineer that's Pithing Needled. I think I am just killing the Karn this turn, wasting a decent amount of damage, and then trying to kill my opponent in a single combat step by bouncing Ensnaring Bridge at some point. It gets weird if my opponent's last card is Swords to Plowshares, and this Karn can survive the turn. Yeah. I actively did not want that to happen. Okay. I can't play this as a land. I just can't. I also can't cycle this for a land. That just doesn't make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6. We're not going to do this yet. And in fact, having a slightly smaller creature in play might be an advantage for Ensnaring Bridge purposes. My opponent does ultimately still just have 6 cards in hand, so that's a thing too. A Construct token might not be able to easily attack. Tormod's Crypt. So what my opponent's probably doing is getting a Tormod's Crypt so that they can exile their own graveyard to be able to tutor for Ensnaring Bridge if Ensnaring Bridge is destroyed. They are not going for that route immediately. They're putting up some extra defenses for Karn. So Ensnaring Bridge is not in play, so it doesn't matter how big my creatures get this turn. So let's yield to that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7, assuming that I want to cast this, which I think I do. So Patchwork scales up. This is 10 theoretical points of damage, which is not quite lethal. So that probably means that this damage is better directed at the Karn, attempting to kill the Karn. My opponent may or may not let the Karn go. Unlocking all of my artifacts is potentially very scary. Alright, so now I need 1 more mana source so that I can Otawara a bridge out of play and swing for lethal. I have things that may or may not be able to attack while bridge is in play. The good news is that an Otawara is not a counterable thing via Red Elemental Blast. 8 life, here's the bridge. Karn can plus blow up a Lotus Petal and scale back my damage by 1, which is happening. My opponent has 4 cards in hand, so theoretically both of these creatures can attack. This is a little awkward. If I bounce the Ensnaring Bridge out of play this turn, and my opponent has Swords to Plowshares, they can Swords to Plowshares the Construct token and go to 1 and stay alive. Ancient Tomb will be shut off. Patchwork, in theory, might be able to still attack. It's awkward. It's possible I am supposed to just not do things this turn and hit my opponent to 1. I'm going to go for it, though. Let's take it out of play. So we are going to attack my opponent and see if they are dead. They are dead. We take those. I think I'm okay with how I've boarded. The one fairy feels a little weird. Not having a Tormod's, like a true Tormod's Crypt clear the graveyard effect that's too durable off Urza Saga also feels a little weird. While I am perfectly happy with a hand that contains Chill, this is like a Chalice of the Void hand that has no real follow-up afterwards. I don't think I am happy with this, especially in multiples. I'm also not happy with this. This can answer some of my opponent's stuff, but I'm just like not playing Magic. I feel like I'm mulliganing into Oblivion because my deck doesn't have anything good to do in the early game. This feels like the sort of hand where if I keep this, I'm just going to lose to some fair card. Like I'm just going to lose to some mid-game Fury or Karn because I have no gas. I don't have that many draw twos. I think I've in fact boarded a ton of those out. Like I think I am very clearly in the beatdown role in this matchup. This hand does not beat down. I think Ancient Tomb Urza Saga is often going to be better than this hand. I think Simulacrum Synthesizer with the ability to cast something is often better than this hand. Like, this stops me from losing quickly, but then my opponent, plays a Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and this answers that. I'm going to go to 5. Yes. Very easily best hand that we have seen. Not close. This hand is very, very good. Saga's good. We, in theory, can just beat that. We're most scared of just dying to combo before I can do anything meaningful. This is a card for later for me, I believe. I think I just always, always, always need to cast my Synthesizer on turn 2. And then probably pop off pretty hard on turn 3. Don't Painter me? That's technically not Painter, but it looks an awful lot like a Painter to me. So we're gonna die. We've got that going for us. We can try to scry our way towards some sort of interaction here, assuming that we don't just die next turn, which feels pretty likely. My opponent has 2 mana showing. They have a 3rd mana out of their deck. They need 4 mana to kill me, so a land drop is just going to beat me. Next turn, I play Synthesizer into Frogmite. I guess I think that always goes on bottom. I can just play Frogmite into Frogmite, generate a lot of value, and if my opponent doesn't combo kill me, that's enough fair power to win. But that just kind of relies on my opponent to fully just fizzle. I'm already dead to Ancient Tomb. I guess I'm already dead to land, right? That is just always 4 mana. Haywire Might, Spellbomb, Pithing Needle. I guess I'll try to high roll better than this. But again, like, Synthesizer is not immediately contributing any power to the board that can attack. Like, definitely feeling the floor of the card here. Feels kind of like a Mox Opal situation. Yep. There's the land drop, so we are dead. That is 3 mana plus 1 to activate Goblin Engineer. So Grindstone, activate, hold priority, activate Goblin Engineer in response to put the Painter into play. And with that, we are dead. GG's. Okay. Ancient Tomb, Patchwork Automaton, Lotus Petal, into some other nonsense afterwards. This is fine. I wish I had another land, but I don't really think this is worth mulliganing. We will, like, on average, probably have a quite powerful turn 2 in one capacity or another. But I immediately lose to Wasteland. Oh, there it is. Thank you. Anyway, how are you feeling about having Frogmites and Tanglewires in your deck? Are you losing your mind, or is it just me? Oh, and there's more. Sure. So, combat. Attack for 2. 18. I am not playing Magic. It seems like we are playing against something in the general, like, green-white Reclaimer, Knight of the Reliquary, Dark Depths ballpark. Land go. Life from the Loam, Returning Wasteland is an absolute disaster. That means that I cannot accrue mana to cast a bunch of these things. So I can play Ancient Tomb. Frogmite costs 3 mana, then Frogmite costs 2 mana. I don't think I play any cards here. Like, this is not a playable card right now, when I will just get locked under it. Like, my opponent can safely continue to make land drops through this in all likelihood. Yeah, this is just past the turn with 6 cards in hand. Feels bad. Now my opponent sets up Dark Depths very, very quickly, and could have still played Reclaimer this turn. Okay, what about now? Play Mox Opal, Frogmite costs 2 mana. Frogmite costs 1 mana, Frogmite costs 0 mana. That just still doesn't beat a 2020. Can I Thought Monitor? Frogmite off Ancient Tomb. Frogmite off Island. Frogmite for 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thought Monitor costs 2. No. Yeah, pass turn with no play, I think. Try to high roll better next turn. I don't think vomiting a couple Frogmites into play and attacking for 4-ish points of damage per turn is going to be good. I think I can rip a Synthesizer and have a very strong turn, and, like, maybe that has a chance of winning. Opponent not even going for the Dryad Arbor poke here. Well, that's a card. I guess we're doing that. I will go to 0 artifacts in play in order to do this. I think this is worth putting my Ancient Tomb into play for. Draw my card. Damn it. I don't know that I get to wait the next turn, though. Like, if I wait another turn, then we are potentially just staring down a 2020. Alright, so there's half of it. Now my opponent can 2 mana activate. Yeah, that's fine. You gonna Null Rod on a stick me? Just end my suffering? Not exactly, but pretty close. I'll lose some life. Saga. Sure. Let's start here. I would like to find something, yes, that lets me get a Synthesizer into play. The Wasteland is not currently active. I can do something like this. This. Damn it, they saw it. Okay, that's fine. Sure. That's a little frustrating. Because, like, this could have done that. I thought that was something that's missable, but I have to hold this for the 2020. So I can't tap this for mana right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll play a Mox Opal out so that I don't have to discard. Oh, right, Metalcraft's on because of the One Ring. So I guess we can go ahead and go bam, 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 put this into play. I unfortunately only control 3 artifacts. Opal always goes on bottom. So my Frogmites cost 1. Lavaspur Boots is interesting to immediately attack with these. Don't think it's good enough, though. So that's turn. I need to find a 0-cost thing that I can play so that I can vomit Frogmites into play, make a whole bunch of power with the Synthesizer. I guess I can keep Mox Opal. I keep Mox Opal, that does get me to where I need to be. It's just awkward. I guess with the One Ring, I'm likely to draw enough cards that it's fine. Alright. Lose some to that. Seat will do. So, yeah, I now control 4 artifacts. Let's draw my cards. Pithing Needle. Oh shit, I don't have a legendary creature, so I only have 3 mana. I've already made my land drop. Am I just gonna die anyway? No, I can probably Thought Monitor my way out of this. My opponent can take out my Synthesizer here, which is really annoying. Yeah, it is what it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're getting a little weird here. So now I can do this to draw 2. This gives me a theoretical blocker. Okay. So now I will Pithing Needle. This is fine. So now I name Elvish Reclaimer, so that my opponent can't just tutor away to get pro blue and crash in through this. And this gets me to the next turn. On the next turn, I can Otawara this out of play and go from there. God damn it. Sure. The fact that we even had any chance to be in that game is a miracle, though. We'll take it. So, I like a tutorable way to say no to a 2020. I don't mind these to get rid of Elvish Reclaimers. I don't know that I really want to mess around with counterspells. There's a couple of very specific cards like Force of Vigor that could matter a lot. Tangle Wire seems dreadfully slow and quite bad against things that can just use mana in upkeep. You know, the Urza Sagas, the Elvish Reclaimers, the Thespian Stages. That said, I'm not really boarding that many cards unless I also want these. Palantir team seems too slow. I'm going to take those out for Dismembers as early interaction. These are so bad once my opponent has like an Elvish Reclaimer in play. I think I'm just going to not. One? Like otherwise we're to cards like Haywire Might and Palantir, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I will play first. This hand does not do anything. It has too much fat. This hand also doesn't do anything, but I'm probably keeping it. Like, I just keep it, probably getting rid of the one ring here and keeping the synthesizer. And hoping that I can dismember a turn 1 creature to have 1-drop into 2-drop into 3-drop. And our request is denied. Opponent gets rid of swords. Frogmite. So next turn, I will control 3 artifacts, so Frogmite is not free. So I can't just play that into immediately synthesizing. I would not mind drawing another land that's not Otawara. Yeah, you got it. That's not a castable Magic the Gathering card. I control no artifacts for Frogmite. That's fine, I will dismember that, just purely for the sake of my curve here. Sure. Get out. Very, very badly need a land here. I mean, I guess that's what I asked for, kind of. I guess I'll take a seat. I'll play it and pass. One's got 4th land drop, so Green Sun for 3 is online. Green Sun for 2 is just scarier. It's just Collector Oof. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. Anyway, Simulacrum Synthesizer. Sure. That's a protectable threat via Caracas that also might shut off some of my cards. The Collector Oof is a real problem here. Yep, that is not mana right now. We'll hold that in case we draw a Patchwork Automaton. I don't think I'm interested in playing a Frogmite here. I think I have to do it after Simulacrum Synthesizer to have a chance at stabilizing in this game versus fair cards that are just going to beat me down. I think I'm just going to lose to a 2020 very easily here. So this is just 2020 time. I've used one of my Otawaras already. Yeah, I am at 12. My opponent has a 2020 now. That is not a castable card. We are very dead. GG's. All right, final round here. Yeah. I can immediately play a Simulacrum Synthesizer on turn 1 and try to scry towards more mana, but that feels very awkward. I think I keep this and play Patchwork Automaton on 1 into Synthesizer on 2 into Tangle Wires after that. That seems fine. I feel like my deck is just absolutely atrocious versus Wasteland. It feels like so many of these hands, if my opponent just like Wastelands me, I just lose. And I note I have to do this in this order if I want to keep the Lotus Petal around because I need it for Synthesizer on turn 2. Okay. So now we're hoping that my opponent cannot counter my Simulacrum Synthesizer. That's fine. That's pretty good against Patchwork Automaton. Metalcraft Online. Do you have an Emery? You do have an Emery. Lotus Petal. Okay. Super happy with this. I think this game is about this card, not about Tanglewire. I think I need to resolve this and then play Tanglewires afterwards. So please resolve. Hot damn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are 1 mana cards that will chain into each other. Yes, this is totally fine. And in for 2. 18. So we'll see how my opponent wants to use their turn. They can, in theory, Lotus Petal and then use 3 mana to take my Patchwork Automaton out of play before it gets any bigger. Ooh, there's a Thoughtcast. Sure. All right, so Emery targets Lotus Petal for extra mana. Opponent still has an opportunity to go ahead and remove Patchwork Automaton if they would like. Seems like no. They do have to target their own graveyard here, as I have nothing in mind. So I would vastly prefer not to play Tanglewire here. My opponent has a bunch of permanents and can keep gaining permanents, and my permanents are more valuable than their permanents. So I think I am going to just go ahead and lead on this first. Okay, cool. Are we resolving? Unfortunately not. Pitching Metallic Rebuke is not castable on that because of the mana that I have. Okay. Guess we're playing Tanglewire. I'm just like not the most excited about this prospect. I don't know, maybe I just play Tanglewire into Tanglewire and my opponent dies. Negative, my opponent just has more counter magic. So they had Metallic Rebuke X2 and Force of Will. So my Simulacrum Synthesizer has not made me a construct token yet, despite casting 2 things that would trigger it. And I have, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In theory, if I cast and resolve Tanglewire, that adds 2, so that the Salamander that's on top of my deck is free. But now my opponent just like has Thoughtcast on loop every turn, so that's not the greatest. Thanks, I hate it. And again, my opponent controls more permanents than I do, so the Tanglewire is probably actively harmful for me. But I have no choice but to cast it. There's another Bauble Cycle. My opponent is doing a much better job of operating on low resources than I am. So there's the wire. We scale up Patchwork. I think we hit another wall of counter magic. My opponent is debating whether or not this is even something worth countering. I'll do this. Yeah, my Tanglewire was so bad that my opponent did not even counter it. So now I can attack in to take this off the board, but that just lets my opponent draw 1 more card next turn. I'm not even sure if that's good. It's let them draw 1 card for free or let them draw 2 cards for 2 mana. I think I'm going to try to overwhelm them and kill them from 13 in a single attack step. It's just tough. Like, this is not on cast. This happens on resolution. And my Tanglewire is in a really awkward place right now, where if I want to be able to top deck a 3-drop and play it, I need to not tap any of my mana sources. So that means I tap down one of my threats, which makes the possibility of attacking just worse. How many 3-drops do I actually have? I guess not that many. Oh, right, there's synthesizers over here. Sure. So my opponent can rebobble. They also just get perfect information about everything that I draw, in addition to everything else that's happening. And they can also attack me in a way that I can't really attack them. Oh, they're Painter combo as well. That's horrifying. That means that sitting back and waiting is really tough, because I can just die at any time through non-combat means. Thanks, I hate it. So it's this one, this one. I think I am just tapping down a creature and leaving the possibility of top decking a 3-drop that I can cast. Negative. This can increase the power of this and the power of this by 1. I guess it's fine to cast then. We're not going to attack. I'm not going to let my opponent draw 2 cards per turn. I will give them their 1. But the hope is to draw Thought Monitor type cards that can just chain together. I am dead in a couple of turns to that. That just represents Grindstone. My opponent's deck is so much more mana efficient than mine. Memories and Force of Wills really tip the scales in my opponent's favor. So now we can just tap down 2 things with Tangle Wire. This is too slow. This doesn't matter. At the point where Urza Saga is in play, I probably now start attacking in and putting pressure on my opponent. But my situation is dire. Oh, and there's more interaction. What 4 mana instant is my opponent doing? Oh, it's an Ottawara, sure. I'm almost certainly dead then. So now my opponent nets more blockers. They've got Urza Saga construct tokens. They're threatening a combo kill. There's more beyond that? Or is this just cycle a Soul Guide Lantern? Oh, it's cycle a Pirate Spellbomb. Yeah, same thing. But tap 2 of your permanents, though. Sure. So opponent kills me. Okay. So I have Dismembers for Emeries and Painter Servants. Beyond that, a lot of my cards are just not great. Fairy is pretty weak and situational. Chalice hurts us both quite a bit, and I probably don't want to be the person investing resources into Chalice. Haywire Might is okay. Aether Spellbomb is okay. My opponent is much better at using Metallic Rebuke than I am because I have to keep tapping out for expensive cards, and I just need all my mana. My Tangle Wires are coming out. Those were very actively bad. That gives me these 4 pieces of interaction, and then I think if Metallic Rebuke is better than anything else in this deck, I think no. I think since I so frequently need to tap out to play my cards that I just can't hold this up as well as my opponent. Okay, turn 1. Tree, Lotus Petal, Mox Opal, control 3 artifacts. Use 3 mana to play Synthesizer. Is pretty good against not Force of Will hands. I think that's worth keeping. But if this eats a Force of Will or a Force of Negation, I am in very, very bad shape. So let's do this. And hope my opponent does not have a counterspell. My hand is just terrible if they do. Yeah. So now, the Frogmites and Sojourner's Companions that are in my hand are just absolute garbage. And I am going to have probably a worse Urza Saga hand than my opponent. My opponent gets to make Urza Saga tokens first here, which is a really big deal. So this is 3 artifacts. So this costs 4 right now. I guess we're not doing that. Now it costs 3. I could give up Lotus Petal to go ahead and cast this card, which I guess I will. And I've got 6 power in play, plus the ability to activate Urza Saga, unless I somehow lose both of my creatures, which is somewhat unlikely. I'm not sure that this Frogmite ever is going to get to attack into this Urza Saga. That seems somewhat unlikely. Sojourner's Companion probably gets to attack. I'm out of gas. My opponent gets to do whatever they want, and I have no recourse. I have minimal decisions for the rest of this game. I guess I will attack in with Frogmite. My opponent can make a 2/2. I would be happy with that trade. I'll still have Metalcraft for Mox Opal. Alright, my opponent takes the damage. I'll pass the turn. I don't get to do anything with my Pithing Needle here. I don't have enough mana. Because I know my opponent is always going to fetch with Urza Saga, I'm just gonna make mine now. I have to activate it before Pithing Needle can come into play. My opponents are 2/2s, soon to be 3/3s, soon to be 4/4s. My opponent may be able to attack in with their creatures this turn. They can get something like a Spell Bomb to defensively take out one of my construct tokens. They can get something like a Shadow Spear to gain some life. They've got options. It is floating mana. Oh, am I just gonna die? If I just die because I did not have mana to activate or to play a Pithing Needle, so be it. Yep, I'm dead because I did not have an extra mana to Pithing Needle there. So that is a disastrous 1/4 league. All right, well, let's do some deck building lessons here. So here's the deck, and the primary problem with the deck is this is only good if things are working. And this is only good if things are working. And this is only good if things are working. And this is only good if things are working. And the primary problem here is that for things to be working, you either need Simulacrum Synthesizer or Patchwork Automaton. So, like, you can keep a hand that has Urza Saga and the ability to activate it. You can keep a hand that has Patchwork Automaton, or you can keep a hand that has Simulacrum Synthesizer. But any hand that has, like, a combination of any of these cards, like any of these 24 cards, is just bad. I activated the One Ring, I believe, only in one game in this league. I am not sure if Simulacrum Synthesizer ever meaningfully made more than one artifact token in this league. That is, I think when I cast this, I did not ever get more than one artifact creature token with this. And so the result was that I was playing a deck that had Urza Saga, Ancient Tomb, Patchwork Automaton, and then half of the deck was just dead. I was not getting to enough artifacts to cast these because so many of these cards were expensive and were just getting stuck in my hand. Mox Opal sometimes was not getting turned on. So the deck just had too much fat. Like, there is just too much stuff at the top of the curve that requires things to be going right. And there's not that many early game artifacts outside of the lands in this deck. Like, I think you have to cut some of this cute stuff, which probably means some number of the One Ring Tanglewire Palantir to play more early game artifacts. You know, maybe you put the Chalices back into the main deck. That's 4 more things that can help make you have good turn ones. Maybe you play a couple of Sir Gingers. Maybe you play a playset of Baubles of some kind. Like, I get wanting to play a deck that does not draw very many cards so that you're more resilient versus Orcish Bowmasters. But, like, we are playing a true Affinity deck where we need a bunch of artifacts in play for our deck to do anything. And so much of the time, just card after card after card was just getting stuck in our hand. Maybe you can also go a land higher than, like, a land or 2 higher than just the 18 that this deck is currently running. Like, I very frequently mulliganed to 4 because I identified that we had very few keepable hands. And I would like to keep 7s. Like, I would like to keep powerful 6s and 7s. But this deck doesn't really put itself in the position very often where it can just do that because it has so many cards that are reliant on things going well. I also don't think Metallic Rebuke is particularly a good fit in this deck list. Again, because we are so mana intensive, we are tapping out for 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops even. And it's so hard to leave up 1 mana. I know how ridiculous that sounds, but it's so hard to leave up 1 colored mana while also having 2 untapped artifacts in this deck because we are playing so many fewer, like, 0-cost artifacts than something like 8-cast is. You know, the difference between 7 and 11 is massive in terms of the ability to have these Frogmites enter on the same turn as Synthesizer. And that was a big problem in this league. Like, if I could Synthesizer and Frogmite on the same turn, and I am immediately attacking with an Urza Saga Construct token the next turn, like, that is good, that matters. But it was usually Simulacrum Synthesizer past the turn, Synthesizer gets answered, or Frogmite, you know, gets stopped or whatever. And I did not do my thing very much in this league. So, Michael, I think you're back to the drawing board. Maybe you get to keep one of Tanglewire, the One Ring, or Palantir, but I think you have to shift, or it'll be this way for, I think you have to shift the curve this way and reduce the average cost of your deck for this to be successful and really do what you want it to do. I can conceptually understand wanting to move Chalice to the sideboard because Chalice is not the best card in the current Legacy metagame or anything like that. But I think if you take that out, you have to replace it with other early game stuff. All right. My suffering has ended. I am free. Should you find that you need some cards, check out toamagic.com. Use promo code ThrabenU while you do to save 5% on your order. And folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. If you have any thoughts for our donor about how the deck list could be adjusted, throw them down in the comments below. All right. See ya.